Welcome to the Cynical Marketers Podcast, where the greatest minds in marketing, we think, discuss marketing for an audience of several. And now, your hosts, Mike and Nada. Hello again, everybody. We're back with another episode of the Cynical Marketers. It's crazy. What episode is this, Nada?
Episode 9. We're almost halfway to that magic 20, Mike.
Almost. We're almost there. And as you can see, we've got a guest with us again today. It's another one of our listeners.
Exciting.
So I don't know if this cuts down on our 4 listener count.
6, Mike.
In theory, it should help.
It's 6.
Because this guy we've got on here has a big network of people who love him. So the theory is we have this guy on, and then everyone's going to want to hear what he has to say.
No pressure, Matt.
It's going to double our listeners to 8. But anyway, I welcome Matt Metzger to the show here. Matt is a realtor with John Green Realtor Now. We've known Matt for a long time. I've known him. We worked at Grunstyle together. I hired Matt there as a salesman, and he is one of the best salesmen that I have ever met in all of my years. And I think it shows now in what he's doing at John Green, the work he's done there. He was 2020 Rookie of the Year. Matt and I, in the President's Club, the 25 million President's Club now.
Yes.
So he's selling wherever he is. He's one of those guys. What's the saying is he could sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman wearing white gloves, right? That's a long intro.
That is the saying.
This is Matt Metzger, everybody. Welcome, Matt. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening to us too. You're one of our listeners. So we're so happy to have you. Like I said, you're one of the best salesmen I've ever had. I hired you. Well, gosh, it's 2025 now. Has it been 10 years?
Yeah, it was. I started October of 15, so it has been almost been 10 years.
I hired Matt at Grunstyle, and at the time that Matt came in, we hadn't moved yet to the big location yet. We were still in our little place on Remington in Schaumburg, and I was still at that time actually the director of human resources. So that's how and why I hired Matt at that time. But 2 things that stood out about Matt to me was he was coming from car sales. And when I'm talking to salespeople, I love the car sales folks because if it's a dealership that's any good, they invest an incredible amount of time in training their people on sales. Yeah. So I knew that about Matt coming in. Then I'm like, oh, and I knew the dealership he'd been at was a top dealership. I'm like, oh, I know he's trained, and that's why we were hiring him for sales to come in and help boost our custom sales team. And then the other thing about Matt, something I love about salespeople when I'm talking to them and looking to hire. I love salespeople who have had success selling incredibly difficult products to sell. It's not that hard to sell things everybody wants. I love talking to salespeople who sell hard things, and Matt had done that, right? Matt, what was it you were selling before the cars?
I was selling phones, phone to phone. It was a voice over IP system, and now I think everybody has a voice over IP system, but in the Chicagoland market, it was all very new, and the company I was working for, they were just launching it into the Chicagoland market, so they didn't know anything about it, and I had to do a real big deep dive on everything with it and learn basically the entire telecommunications aspect of it because I had nobody to train me there, and I had to completely immerse myself in it.
Even better. Better when you get a sales role with 0 support. Even better.
It makes sense.
We've known Matt and I for forever, and even since we all left Grunstyle, we've all kind of stayed in touch and watched what people have done. We're not talking Grunstyle, but all of us, our time at Grunstyle ended sadly. But I knew for Matt that with his skill, it didn't matter what Matt was going to be doing. He's such a good salesperson. And part of that is that your engagement and just how you are with people and customers, people connect and engage with you immediately. You have what I don't have. I drive people away.
This is true. I can confirm this is actually facts right here.
I have this thing
Sorry,
of like,
Mike.
that's kind of that guy's. I am?
People don't really know what to make of you, Mike. Matt is definitely friendlier the first time you meet him.
No, he sure is.
Yeah, there's a lot that comes with the car sales of meeting somebody as soon as as soon as they open the door and step foot on the lot, you got to create that rapport right away. And I actually do take a lot of my sales training from the car business, whether it was T-shirts at Grunt Style or even in in home sales. With that, I tell a lot of the new agents that I see come through. I was like, I got really good at sales from the auto industry and going through their sales training and learning really how to hone my skills. I had done a couple of sales roles before that, the phones, and then I was actually selling private investigation services because I was a background investigator before that. But I was, I'd find something out in the field with my field investigators, and then I'd call up the insurance companies and be like, "Hey, we got some footage. You want more days?" And they'd be like, "Oh yeah, get some more stuff on them." So those were my first forays into sales, and then I was able to turn that into a full-fledged sales career then from there. But the sales training I got with auto sales is really where the backbone of my training has come.
That's great.
That's amazing.
I had done sales previously at DeVry, so I won't talk about that job. But the training.
I was like, well, let's not digress there.
So that sales training, and I think it really pays off. People talk about marketing and sales being so closely related, and they really are. And I like marketing folks who do have some sales background also, and you've had some sales training,
are so
you
hard,
understand
though.
that sales process. Very hard.
Sales are definitely hard. I know that they're very related, but they're definitely a different skill set. I have attempted sales several times in my life, and it's just not been my thing, whereas marketing is kind of where I fit. So I think I admire you, Matt, because I think it's definitely a very, very hard skill set to own and to continue to improve on and continue to grow in. How did you get started with real estate? Like how, if you were Rookie of the Year in 2020, what contributed to that? I mean, I know you're great in marketing yourself as well. We've talked about that. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I think it's a combination of a couple different things, So I had wanted to get into real estate when I bought my first house. And I had talked to my agent, who was actually the neighbor of the guy who got me into phone sales. And he was like, you don't want to do this as a hobby or a side job. He's like, there's just so much involved and there's so much to do to actually be successful at this that you really need to do this as a full-time job and a career, and you don't want to go at this halfway. And I said, okay, fair enough. So I stuck with Grunt Style at the time and really didn't give it much thought. So when my time at Grunt Style ended, I got into another sales job that just was basically dead end. I realized it was dead end a couple weeks into working there. And so at that time I reached out to him, and we had already sold my home because I was planning on moving to Texas. So I was like, well, hey, you know what? That whole me getting into real estate thing is back on the table now because Texas is no longer happening. So I went through the real estate classes and learned everything that there was to know about the real estate license exam, because the real estate license exam and what you have to actually know to be successful in real estate are two totally different things. Mm-hmm. So past that, did a night school with that. And then the brokerage that I am a part of, John Green, is just it's a different brokerage all to itself. It's a what we like to call in the industry like a boutique brokerage. Now we are a little bit larger on that boutique side. I'd say we have about, I think we're 160, 180 agents in total. We do have a couple different offices now. We've got our headquarters is on the south side of Naperville. We've got a small downtown office. We've got an Oswego office, and then we've got a North Aurora office that just opened up. So we've got a couple different locations, but we're not like a Baird & Warner or a Remax, a Coldwell, or anything like that has really a national exposure. Yeah. But that allows us to keep a lot of training in home, and really, our sales manager and our training staff have really honed in on what they want to teach. And I think that has been what has gotten me so successful. And it shows in the new agents that come up through that same training and keeps them successful. We run a training at least 2 to 3 times a week, I'd say. And that's open for everybody in the brokerage. If I'm not busy with work outside of that, I usually try and make the effort to go to those trainings to keep, sharpening the knife, if you will, to keep myself up and up on the training and continually bettering myself when it comes to that. So I'm always improving, always trying to sharpen my skill set. Learning is always part of that. When it's not football season, because I'm a football fan, it's always audiobooks, podcasts, and always trying to, once again, improve that skill set so I can do that. My rookie year was 2020. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like what happened in 2020. There was kind of like this worldwide pandemic. I was living with my in-laws at the time. I had 2 very young kids. They didn't really understand the meaning of a pandemic and like, hey, times are tough. Dad's going to take a back seat. So I was hungry. I had spent the time in 2019 of, I guess, getting my name out there and going through some of those training aspects that my brokerage had provided me and building up, I guess, the name recognition and the fact that everybody had known me as a broker. So I had gotten my name out there. I had introduced myself to the world that, hey, I'm your real estate agent now. Give me a call if we need to do this. So I had built up my pipeline at that point in time. And, we had essentially the timeline was set for everybody to start listing and to buy. Illinois' market really wasn't in the dumps as much as it is now, I'd say. So the people who were selling were also buying at that point. So it was a constant, 2 transactions, which really helped my bottom line because it was for every person that I was, using with a transaction, it was 2 transactions. Now, the more that I see, it's 1 transaction. It's people that are moving and then selling, and they're leaving Illinois. They're buying somewhere else. So it's not as fluid of a movement of, they're upsizing or they're downsizing. So it's just a different market now. But, I had a great pipeline going into 2020 rather. And then, it was multiple transactions for each couple or each person at that point.
So, yeah, building your pipeline amazing. In any sales gig, obviously. And that's what, not on the marketing side, helping sales build pipeline and fill those pipelines. Obviously hugely important. And then, you're talking about the market here in Illinois now shifting again. How do you guys, and you specifically then, we're in the Chicagoland area, we're in the western suburbs. There are a lot of people, but then there are also a lot of realtors. And like somebody, a mentor had told you, you should really focus on doing this full time. But there's a lot of people who aren't, aunts and uncles, and they do it part time. So you have a lot of competition out there. And then all the different brokerage houses that are out here and all these big places. How do you keep your pipeline full then with all of that going on out there? There's a lot of competition, not even from full-time professionals. You got to worry about Sally's aunt who might step in, right?
Yeah, it's hard because, you may have people and to be fair and to be honest, when I got my start, I was a lot of those people's, hey, this is my friend Matt, who is just getting to start, and I'm going to give him his shot, his chance. My dad was dead set on using it, but I'll be honest, my stepmom was like, hey, you've got a couple months, and then we're going to move on to somebody else if the house doesn't sell. Thankfully, I had my ducks in a row, and, we were able to sell my parents' house, but had I not, I knew that my stepmom was going to move on to somebody else if I didn't sell the house. So that's a little bit of an intimidating factor too, but you're going to run into that, consistently. I think really in whatever career path you kind of go down, especially when you're dealing with a service industry. Mike, I've heard you say it, plenty before. Well, my teenager can, they went viral on Instagram, why don't they do it? You know, it's always going to be, especially like in the service side, I feel like you're always going to be up against somebody who can do it for less, can do it as a side hobby, which is why I have changed my thinking and my logic between that. I don't go to my buddy who's an electrician anymore and expect favors, because it's one of those things where it's like you have that knowledge and that experience, and that is what's paying your bills. It's not the, oh, hey, can you pop over and do me a favor? Can you do me a solid? Because I know that that knowledge and experience is really what your worth is. But for me to beat out those people, I really let my experience and my, my case studies really give them the examples. In 2020, it was, I'm the agent that's out here in COVID that is going to open the doors for you. Because there was a lot of agents that were just like, you know what, I got a little bit of a nest egg, I'm not going to show these homes for you. So you had agents that weren't willing to go out there and do that. In 21, it was, okay, I've got a little bit of experience now. Let me show you how I can take this and get you over ask for your properties. Now that I've built those case studies of, hey, I sold for the highest that this neighborhood's ever gone for, then I had those results and I was more results focused. When I had those results and the time of, the results and the numbers then of number of sales, number of buys, then I was able to just resort to, hey, look at all of these transactions that I've been able to hold off. And, it's a numbers game at that point. Currently, right now, it's now integrating video in my marketing and getting it out there. And, I have people saying, you live in Oswego, but, will you go to Killdeer? Or all these different areas. And it's like, yeah, I go all over the place.
Yeah, of course.
Well, where do you go? Well, I go to Gurnee, I go to Dixon, I go to Marengo, I go to Manhattan. I'll go anywhere. Oh, well, my agent won't go that far. Well, your agent isn't willing to work for you. I am, So it's being able to differentiate myself as to how I'm a full service agent and why you should choose me as opposed to your agent who is just going to work in your neighborhood, or your agent is just willing to open the doors for you and isn't going to do all of the back end work. I had one of these, an investor that was looking for some help just the other day and was like, hey, is there any investors in one of the groups that I'm a part of? He was asking questions, and I knew the property because I had done a lot of rentals for a different client in that same neighborhood, and I knew everything about it. And he's like, why can't my agent find out what the last rented property was going for and everything? And I was like, I didn't say it, but I wanted to be like, because your agent isn't working for you. Your agent is going to write up an offer and collect a commission, and they're the agents that give other full service agents essentially the bad name. They're the lazy agents. It stinks because there's plenty of lazy agents. There's bad people in every one of the there, but it happens.
Yeah, that's like us hearing about all the horror cases of working with agencies. We hear it all the time, like Mike mentioned, I think in a different podcast, when somebody got on a call with him and the first thing out of their mouth was like, I hate marketing agencies. It's like, oh, great. So happy to be here. But really what I love,
Call's going to go good.
What I love is how you've changed your messaging around how you actually market yourself, from being a rookie, from getting started, where it was that word of mouth, right? Like you didn't have results to show for yourself yet. So all of your personal relationships were key, right? Like that was what got you the foot in the door. But to be fair, like your stepmom said, hey, listen, we're willing to give you a shot, but if you don't get this done, we have to go with somebody else, because we would if it was a different realtor, right? Like it's not, so your friends and family would, and your, other folks in your network would give you a shot, but then you had to perform and earn the next chance and the next. And then once you did, you showed your numbers, and then your numbers help you speak to the clients to say, look at all the things that I've done. So I like how you're messaging around how you show up for your potential clients or your clients or even previous clients shows up for you, how you show up as a full service realtor.
Yeah.
And how that messaging around who you are has changed. That's, I love that growth for you.
It was one of the things that I had to learn. Being in sales, you have to learn to take rejection, which look at this face. It's not the prettiest face in the world, so I'm used to taking rejection pretty well. I can take the rejection, but one of the hardest lessons for me when I got into real estate was to not have the family and friends work with you. And I think that is the hardest lesson for a lot of early real estate agents to take, is not having your close family and friends pick you or pick somebody else. Yeah. I mean, my sister was, I think, the hardest one for me to take. My stepsister didn't choose me. She chose a different agent. My other stepsister sold by owner and bought by owner. So it wasn't like that. But I've had plenty of friends that, hey, we went a different direction and we didn't choose you. So, I mean, that's a hard pill to swallow, but it's something that eventually I got over, and it's like, okay, I understand that. It's a little bit easier because my mom is also a real estate agent, and she works for a different brokerage, and she works a little bit different market. She's a little bit further out west than I am. So some of the, the intertwining friends and family, I understand I'm going to lose out on some of those. And it's actually funny. We were talking about it the other day. I got a lead from a mutual acquaintance, and she's like, "Oh, you got him from them?" She's like, "They referred me for something else." So it's like they were kind of like passing between, both of us. And it's like, oh, well, at least, that's nice that they sent something to both of us as opposed to just one, so. But yeah, it's a hard thing to deal with, is when you do lose out on those opportunities to somebody else when you know that person so well. But it makes Christmas a lot easier to deal with.
That's a good way to look at it, though. I feel like it happens in every industry, right? But I like the attitude around it.
Yeah.
So we're up on time. So let's close with this question for you. Now, with your year's experience and your success, looking back and thinking about the new folks coming into this, what are some of the big mistakes new realtors make when they're coming into this field?
Boy, it's hard to say for new realtors in general, because I don't know how it is at other brokerages. I've only been at John Green. I would say not utilizing that sphere that they do have right out of the gate, but definitely not leaning on their training if they've gotten training. I know some brokerages just are like, okay, you got your license, go to it. But I think that not utilizing some of the the video assets that are out there. There's a lot of stuff that you can do as a new agent, and if they were popular on some of the socials, utilizing that and finding their niche to really motivate them and use that as a tunnel to generate business. I've found mine, and I get anywhere from probably 2 to 5 transactions a year out of that. And it's utilizing that veteran community. I mean, I come from the veteran community. It's a natural fit for the Chicago Marine veteran aspect for me. I can't measure that return that I get necessarily in, dollars spent versus dollars returned exactly, but I know that I've gotten business from there. I know a lot of the people there. I've spent my time there, and I know that they return the favor because it's a small community, and it's a community that it's small enough to where I tend to know a lot of the people there, and they are always looking to do business with a like-minded person in that field. And it's a field where they're looking to do enough of that same business. So they're looking to either buy or sell. They're looking to kind of regenerate that enough. It's almost like it's regenerative enough in the business aspect to where I can continually farm business out of it while I am, natural in my surroundings with it. So it's a natural point of emphasis in my pipeline where I don't have to work at it really that hard. Mm-hmm. So I think that with new agents, they've got to find that group or that aspect to where they can market naturally, and the business will come to them.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. And I'd like to point out for everybody, it was over 26 minutes before he mentioned he was a Marine. that has to be a record.
It's a record. I think it's a record
for a Marine to get before it came out. That's amazing restraint. That's amazing restraint. So, all right. Well, thank you, Matt Metzger, John Green Realtor. You're in the western suburbs. Do you cover everywhere in the western suburbs?
I do. Primarily,
listeners is looking to buy a house.
Primarily in the Oswego, Aurora, Naperville area where our offices are located. I travel everywhere. You can find me just basically on all the socials. I just had a pretty interesting video series drop on the progression of one of my new listings. So
the Killdeer project has been very interesting to follow, to see that transformation. I saw the final transformation video, so really interesting.
We'll tag that in the description for the podcast.
Yeah, we'll definitely tag it. We'll put your socials up.
We'll put your socials
up. Lance, when you listen to this, these towns, they're western suburbs of Chicago. So Lance is one of our 5 listeners.
Yes, and I'm a CapCut guy. I know that was up on your last.
Yeah. CapCut's pretty good.
CapCut's great. Yeah.
What kept me from it initially, like I think I told the last guy, is they didn't have a desktop app forever, and it was only on phones. You're like, look, man, I'm way too old to edit video on a cell phone. So,
yeah, see, I came on it with the desktop version, and then I tried going to the phone version, and I was like, yeah, I don't know how to do this. I'll just do it on the desktop version. So
I use CapCut on TikTok for memes. So when you see a funny meme, then it's usually in the bottom it said you can use this one, and then it goes through CapCut. So I've learned at least how to add text and do some stuff there on CapCut. And those do pretty good for me.
Good, yeah.
On TikTok, those memes are good. But thank you again, everybody.
Thanks, Matt.
That again was Matt Metzger. We will put his info in the comments here when we tag and this episode goes up. We've known Matt for a long time. You can
Matt's
definitely,
great.
if you are in the market, we trust Matt. We've known Matt forever. Can't go wrong here. So
thank you.
If you made it to this point, we're about 30 in. Thank you to getting to hear. Matt's family, hello. I hope Matt's family is still here.
Stop it,
at
Mike.
This stage. Okay. All right. But hey, we're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. You can find us on TikTok. We do a little bit more, some stuff there too. So, we're trying to do all the things. We're everywhere. So
everybody's trying to do
Thank you again,
all
everybody.
of
We appreciate it. Tune in again next week. We'll be back.